I should say something about myself to start with. I am Paola Ceccarelli. I am the chair of the steering committee for the Intercollegiate MA for this year. And this is why I have the pleasure and the honor as well to chair this meeting, which is being hosted by Valerie James and the Institute of Classical Studies. So just a bit of background concerning myself. I am also a teacher on the MA program. I teach Greek history at University College London. And so I am part of the Intercollegiate Program, a program in which 3 universities and an institution join on the same footing. And the purpose of this introduction is to help you understand how this intercollegiate system works. But let me start first with a few words on our running order for today. So in a few moments, we'll start with a welcome message from a representative of the Institute of Classical Studies, Gabriel Baudard, who will say something more of the Institute itself and its purpose. Then we'll move on to hear from the librarian of the Joint Library of the Institute and the Hellenic and Roman Societies. And then we'll hear also from the Secretary of the Hellenic and Roman Societies, Dr. Fiona Harrer. Next to speak will be the conveners, or rather 2 of the 3 conveners, of this year's Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar, which is also hosted by the Institute of Classical Studies. So all this, the libraries, the societies, the postgraduate work in progress, all this is centered on Senate House in Malay Street, where we would also be in normal time instead of having this virtual meeting. The next step in the program is away from the Senate House cluster towards the various colleges and departments of the University of London that are part of the Intercollegiate Program. And here we'll follow tradition and proceed in strictly alphabetical order. So we'll first hear about the Classics Department at King's, then we go on to the Classics Department at Royal Holloway and also the History Department of Royal Holloway, out of which this year the Late Antique and Byzantine Studies program is run. Then we move to UCL, University College London, first to the Department of Greek and Latin and then History. All these departments run in their own slightly different ways, modules that are part, all of them, of the collective offering of the Intercollegiate Program. And then once we've heard from each of the colleges about what's happening there in terms of practicalities of teaching this year and so on, then we'll have a question and answer session to cover any question that may have arisen at that point. In normal times, we'd also have library tours. The library is actually open, but you need to book. And today we'll have a virtual library tour, which should give you a taste of the richness of the joint library. And this will be followed by a Q&A session with Joanna Ashe, the head librarian. At this point, probably around 4, you'll go into the various breakout groups, each one of you according to your own program. This will give you a chance to ask questions in a more manageable setting, because this will be smaller groups, about the core module and its organization, for instance, or also about module choices. And then we'll come together to hear what a former graduate of this program thought of it, that is the student's perspective, and there will be an opportunity for final questions around 4:30. So basically a first part around Senate House and the Institute of Classical Studies, a second part concerning the various institutions and departments, and a final third part focused on the 5 intercollegiate programs, ancient history, classics, archaeology, reception, and late antique and Byzantine studies. So now that I have explained the general running order of the day, let me say a few words about the intercollegiate program. As you may have gathered from this quick run, this is a fairly complex operation, which involves coordinating not just 4 institutions, but also multiple departments within those institutions. This is a major challenge logistically and bureaucratically. So please bear with us if things don't always run perfectly. We're certainly hoping to give you the smoothest possible experience, but there may be hiccups along the road. Just to give you an example of the problems that arise, those that we are aware of, I'm just saying. This year, teaching starts in Royal Holloway next week, but at King's and at UCL, unless I am mistaken, it only will start in 2 weeks. However, King's will join Royal Holloway for the reading week, which will fall after their week 5, while UCL will have its own reading week after our own week 5, reasonably so 1 week later. Luckily, in the second term, the 3 institutions proceed at on the same schedule. But you see, it's not banal. So if you're starting teaching, if you're taking a module at Royal Holloway, you begin earlier than if you're taking it elsewhere. So the intercollegiate program involves, as I said, the 4 institutions I mentioned and 6 different departments. And although all of us adhere to very similar practicalities in terms of the running of the program, there are some slight differences in regulations. For instance, you will find that there are slight differences in the procedures around submitting coursework and in the penalties applied for late submission. And in that case, what you need to do is pay attention to what the procedures are in the department to which the particular module that you're doing is attached, because there may be differences even between 2 departments of the same institution, say between UCL Greek and Latin and history, or classics and history at Royal Holloway. So some slight differences in procedure are going to be inevitable. And that's where you need to pay attention to the rules of the department out of which the module is being run. Conversely, if you have problems in your own circumstances and require to have some kind of mitigation, which may happen, for instance, an extension to the coursework submission, in this case, you should apply to your home institution. That is, you talk to the program tutor in your own college, in your own institution, and then the tutor will consider your case, take that to the relevant authorities, and the outcome will be communicated to the other departments that are teaching you, and they will have to follow whatever has been ruled by your home institution. So this is a different situation where the home institution's rules override the rules of the institution in which you're being taught. And these are some of the very basic principles that underlie the delivery of this program. Now, all this looks and actually is extremely complicated. But having said that, this is also an extraordinary and extraordinarily exciting program, which, because of its intercollegiate nature, is in a position to offer a much greater variety of courses than we could possibly do as individual colleges. It does involve inevitable complications, but we should remember that what we gain from this complex relationship is much greater than the various inconveniences that will come across along the way. And I very much hope that those inconveniences won't mar your experience and your enjoyment of your degree. Now we'll hear more about the detail from the various college tutors. And if you have questions, you can start from now putting them into the chat. We'll regularly check on the chat. Meanwhile, I would like to hand over now to Dr. Gabriel Bodach from the Institute of Classical Studies, who will present, who will tell you something more about the Institute.
Oh, thank you, Paola, and good afternoon and welcome, everybody. So I'm Gabriel Bodach. I'm the reader in digital classics here at the Institute of Classical Studies. I'm presenting the Institute because our director, the director of the ICS, doesn't actually begin next week. So from next week onwards, Catherine Harlow is the person you'll hear from about the ICS more often. But so the ICS is the responsibility of the ICS is to support infrastructure and research for classics and digital classics across the UK and more broadly speaking across the world, but specifically our remit is supporting classics in the UK. A secondary remit is to act as kind of a hub, and by that I mean primarily a physical hub for the intercollegiate MA teaching that you're all here to hear about. So we, in some cases, we provide classrooms for some of the classes, and there's other activities take place in Senate House as a central location. That sort of physical location would be a lot more evident in a normal year, as it were, but hopefully we'll be getting together, in real space a lot more over the course of this year than last year, for example. The heart, if you like, of the physical space of the ICS is the library, which you'll be hearing about from Joanna in a minute. This is the main part, but there's other parts of the building that can also be used for working space. And as well, obviously, as being the world-class classics library, it's also a space that people can work and people can collaborate, and where it serves as a place that people across London can and do meet and encounter each other. The other aspect in which we support classics, specifically in London, is through seminars and conferences. Obviously, people can and do come from other parts of the country and the world to seminars and especially to conferences. But the sort of weekly seminars that happen pretty much every day of the calendar are largely attended by people from around London. And you'll be hearing about one of these seminars from Barbara and Christiana shortly, but these seminars are obviously extremely important for national and international networking, for meeting other scholars, for meeting each other, for meeting visiting fellows who come to the ICS and to other institutes in London. So it's a really useful melting pot to hang out with other classicists and get to know the discipline and other people. The ICS also holds and either organises and teaches ourselves or sponsors other kinds of training events, including summer schools, events with career support skills, and so forth, and also got a lot of various kinds of public engagement activities that take place, ways to communicate the classics to non-academic audiences, and those are also extremely important parts of the annual calendar. And these are all things that it would be nice if any of you wanted to get involved with, either to attend training events as students, but also if there's things that you might want to get involved in and speak at. Those would be things that could be talked about as well. The other aspect of the ICS's specific remit is, as I mentioned at the beginning, digital classics. And I'm going to highlight this because that's my own interest and remit. So in the sense that we talk about digital classics, we're talking about the application of digital humanities research methods to studying the various aspects of the ancient world, whether that's language, literature, archaeology, geography, space, architecture, history, other aspects of studying of the ancient world, as opposed to digital classics is not giving you tech support with getting databases set up, with using email or whatever, however essential those things are to the study of classics. Those are things that an IT department of your institution will deal with, but really research methods is really core to what we talk about with digital classics. So in digital classics, we have a couple of the modules that you'll have seen are offered in the Intercollegiate MA are in digital classics and are taught here. We do PhD supervision. We run various training activities, both short half-day courses to week-long summer schools. We get involved in consultation and support and collaboration with national and international research projects that apply digital methods to classics research. So these are all things that you might hear about, or you might be interested in talking about and getting involved with it in one way or another. It's probably, as MA students, you're most likely to get involved in any kind of activity like this, as in the sense of organizing and proposing activities in collaboration with someone a little bit more established, so either with PhD students or with academic staff. But there certainly is scope for you to be involved in those sorts of things, any of the sorts of things we've talked about in seminars other kinds of activities. For you all, I think the core, the most important thing to know about the ICS is it is really the central space. It hosts a lot of events, but it's also we do consider this space important because the social aspect of this master's program is as important, or well, some people would say maybe almost as important, but I would say it really is as important as the academic aspect of it. So the fact that you get to meet other students, not only in your classes that you happen to share with those students, but in other sort of contexts as well, such as in the library and other kinds of events, is really important. So we'd love to hear if you have any ideas for other things we could do to support you in the future. We've just got a new director starting, so we'll be having all sorts of rewriting of agendas and so forth in the coming year. So it really is exactly the right time for you to say, I'd really love if the ICS did this. Of course, there may be things you suggest and we say, no, that's not what we do, but we still want to hear from you. So do get in touch if you have any thoughts about any of those sorts of things, and in particular if you're interested in any sort of relatively hardcore digital approaches to research. That's something we're very happy to talk about.
Thank you, Gabi. If you have questions, please put them into the chat. Meanwhile, just a few words to say how important indeed, and how agreed I am with Gabi about the centrality of the Institute of Classical Studies and the things that it promotes for us. It allows you, as Gabi pointed out, to be part of initiatives, in that case, joining forces with others, but also there is an incredible amount of seminars. You could go to one seminar every day and potentially two, I'm afraid. Just look at the events page. So for instance, on Mondays, there are the classical seminars. On Thursdays, there's the ancient history seminars. There's the postgraduate seminars, of which we'll hear a bit more very soon. It's incredibly rich and incredibly I don't know, it's this social aspect of meeting with people and discussing what's going on at the most advanced level of research. And that is what is going to make a difference to your studies, I think, as well. So now I think we should hand over to Joanna, unless there are questions in the chat or, okay, Joanna.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. So I'm the librarian of the Combined Classics Library, which is here in Senate House. I'm in the building at the moment, on the 3rd floor of South Block. It's jointly owned and run by the Institute of Classical Studies on one hand, and the Hellenic Society and the Roman Society on the other hand, jointly under the banner of the Hellenic and Roman Library. So you might see it named various things if you hear about the ICS library or the Hellenic library and Roman library or the joint library. Sometimes it's all the same library. So apologies if that gets a little bit confusing at times. Sometimes we don't know what to call ourselves either. But yes, it's been going since 1879 now, and we now have over 150,000 volumes in the library, books and bound periodicals. Might actually just have gone over 160,000 actually, and we've got around 700 current periodical runs that we add to every year as well. A brief summary of our collection profiles. So basically we cover pretty much anything related to the study of classics. So whether that's literature, history, archaeology, art, philosophy, classical reception, from early Minoan Mycenaean times right through to early Byzantine history. You can find pretty much anything you need here. And if you do need books that fit our collection profiles and we don't have, then just come and talk to any of the librarians and we will see about getting hold of a copy to add to the library. Almost everything is on the open shelves in the library. They are very, very full, as you'll see when you get here, but with a few exceptions, anything that we've got, you can grab yourself from the shelves. So sometimes browsing the right area is another way of finding useful resources, as well as searching our catalogue. A little bit of information about the types of membership of the library. So as master's students in the University of London, you're all eligible for completely free research membership of the library under the Institute of Classical Studies membership, which will let you give you reference-only access to the library. So you can come in, you can read whatever you like when you're here. If you want to borrow books from the library, and about 2/3 of our collection is borrowable, then you would need to join either the Hellenic Society or the Roman Society. I will let Fiona talk more about that in a moment, so I won't say too much, just that student membership is a bargain price of £25 a year, and you can borrow up to 5 books at a time per society. So if you want to take 10 books home with you each day, you can join both societies. And I would recommend joining at least one if you want to borrow books. There's information on our website on how to sign up in any of those ways, either the reference-only institute access or joining either of the societies. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on when we do the virtual tour and the Q&A. So I'll answer questions on that later. We do at the moment, obviously it is still a pandemic, we have some restrictions in place in terms of access to make sure that everybody who comes into the library is kept safe and that we can stay open. So we do have a cap on numbers in the building at the moment. The seats that are in there are all appropriately socially distanced, and we have a booking system to make sure that we never have more people in the library than there are spaces available, to make sure that we're all safe. So at the moment, we do ask you to book ahead in advance through our website. There are sessions for morning booking, afternoon booking. You can book a Saturday as a whole day, and from next week we'll also be open in the evenings until 8 o'clock, and on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and that evening session is an extra 2 hours, separate booking session on the system. Obviously, as things evolve over the course of the year, we may be able to add more seats in, we may be able to relax the booking rules. I just wouldn't want to make any guesses right now about when that's likely to happen. So those are the rules at the moment, and keep an eye on things, and if we can relax things further, we will. And if any of you are not local to London, that doesn't need to be a barrier to using the library. We work with people all around the UK, especially over the last 18 months. We do have a postal loan system where we can post books out to people around the UK. We do just ask our members to cover the cost of post both ways. And also, just talk to anyone in the library. You can email us if you need help with getting things by scan, or if you need help with it, searching for electronic databases and so forth. We're always happy to help with that. So really do just get in touch with any questions that you have, and we will do our best to find a solution that works for you. We will be doing, normally we'd all be in the building, and I'd come down after your breakout sessions and drag you all up to the library in groups and give you a tour of the space. But because we can't do that today, we do have a short video tour of the library, so you can see what it looks like before visiting, and we'll be showing that a bit later in the afternoon, and then I'll be here to answer questions at that point. So, I mean, I'm happy to take questions now if anyone has anything pressing, but we'll have a full Q&A session a bit later as well. And I think that probably just about covers it. I don't want to repeat things that we're going to say again later in the afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Yes, indeed, there will be time for questions. So maybe we move on right away to Fiona and the two societies.
Yes, hello, thank you very much. My name is Fiona Hara. I'm the secretary of the Hellenic Society and the Roman Society. I'm also at King's, and I teach the MA in Beginners Greek for Research. So if any of you are taking the Beginners Greek option, then I will be teaching that. I'm just going to share my screen because I've got a little bit of information about the societies. So I will just do that now. I hope you can all see that. This is just to let you know a little bit about the background of the societies. Both of the societies were founded the Hellenic Society founded in 1879, the Roman Society a little bit later in 1910. So they're part of these sort of learned societies which grew up around that time for the promotion of these kinds of studies. Both of them publish journals. The Roman Society also has a monograph series. Both societies also organise events. Sometimes we do separate events, sometimes we do have some joint events. We've already spoken a little bit about the library, which the two societies own jointly now with the ICS. And both societies have a grants programme where we do support schools, summer schools, but for undergraduate and MA students, we do have some schemes. And there is, for example, a scheme by the Roman Society where we run a museum and heritage summer placement scheme where we set up placements in museums, various heritage organisations, and including one with Gabby at the ICS working on digital classics. We will be running that scheme, we hope, in the summer of 2022. The details for that will be advertised sort of from January onwards. So I'll be sending around some information about that, but it is a very good way if you thinking about what to do in the future and you're interested in working in any kind of museum work or heritage work, then it's a good way to try to get some experience. So that's a little bit about the background of the societies. Membership benefits, as I say, each of the societies publishes a set of journals. So the Hellenic Society publishes the Journal of Hellenic Studies. I'm sure probably you're mostly familiar with that. Archaeological reports, and they also publish a sort of more of a glossy magazine that comes out twice a year called Argo. The Roman Society publishes the Journal of Roman Studies. It publishes Britannia, which is more about Romano-British archaeology. And the Roman Society has an online newsletter we call Epistula, which comes out twice a year, which also has sort of news of conferences, exhibitions, book publications, things to apply for, that kind of a thing. And that's all. Epistula you get included in your subscription. As I say, both societies organise numbers of lectures, conferences, and sometimes we do museum visits, especially if we have exhibitions, relevant exhibitions on, or visits to sites. So, for example, in July, we had a Roman Society visit to the Roman villa at Brading on the Isle of Wight. We do try to go places. I've just put on the screen just the up and coming events, so you can see what they are. So next week at Senate House in the courtroom, we have an event on knowledge and curiosity at the court of Nero. That's a small colloquium in the evening, starting at 5:30. Because we do have some restrictions on numbers at Senate House, as we've been hearing. If you want to attend that event, then please do email me to book a space, just to guarantee yourself a space. Otherwise, you may come and find that the spaces are taken. The first Hellenic Society event of the year is a lecture by Professor Judith Mossman. Now, this is at the Hellenic Centre, which is not here. It's it's quite near Baker Street. You can look up the exact location on the website. Again, they don't have limitations on numbers there, but it is necessary to book a space. So again, if you want to go to that, please do email me within the next week or so. And then the next Roman Society event after that is a colloquium on the city of Rome on the 27th of October, again in the evening, 5:30. It'll be in the courtroom at Senate House. Again, if you want to attend then please do email me to book a space, because there will still be restrictions at that point. So for these events, please do email me just to book your space. But I will be sending, if you do join the society, then you'll automatically be on the email mailing list. So you'll get to hear about these events and reminders as they come up throughout the year. And obviously later on in the year, there'll be other events and conferences coming up. Probably the most important thing, as we've been hearing about, is the membership of the library. So as Joanna has just said, if you join each of the society, this gives you access to borrowing rights. And as we've just heard, you can borrow 5 books per society. I would, there are numerous ways to join, and if you need to ask Joanna about that later in the afternoon, you can join directly on the website, or there are application forms that you can use to join online. Yes, I've just put up at the end how to join and further information. So those are the 2 websites. And if you go to those membership pages, then you'll get directly to the online joining pages. So that is the end of my presentation. So feel free to email me if you've got any questions about joining the society. And otherwise, I hope that lots of you will want to become members and enjoy the benefits of society membership, and enjoy your MAs. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. And now that Fiona has given us a taste of events to come and events past, we can have a more in detail look at one specific seminar. The others, you'll have to Google them up on the website, or you look, if you become a member, you'll receive invitations and so on. But now Christiana Lucidi and Barbara Roberts will speak about the Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar, which is a very special seminar, and I let them explain why it is so special. You really should try to go there, I think. But Christiana and Barbara?
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Barbara. I'm a PhD student at the Open University. And I'm Christiana. I'm a PhD student at the University of Roehampton and also lecturer at King's College. I have like grade 3 and the intermediate text prose, so I might see some of you next week as well. We also have a third convener who can't be with us today, Giuseppe, who is a PhD student at the ICS. But yeah, we wanted to introduce the seminar we convened for the year. So it is the PG WIP seminar, which is the Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar. We'll meet most of Fridays in term time. We'll release the timetable very soon at 5 p.m. The point of the seminar is essentially to showcase the work of postgraduate students. So we have a really varied timetable of presentations from postgraduate students from all over the world on a variety of topics like, to do with the ancient world, and especially the ancient Mediterranean. So you think like philosophy, archaeology, history, language and literature, philology. For term 1, we'll be on Zoom, so we'll be have the timetable on the ICS website to sign up. But also feel free to email us on the seminar email address if you need any help finding that. It's postgradwip@gmail.com. We also have social media pages. We have a Facebook group, which you should be able to search for if you look for like Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar. And we have a Twitter account, which is just at PGWIP. We also would love to invite you we're doing a sort of unofficial start of term picnic, because we're aware that if people are in London and able to travel, they might like to see people's faces in a sort of low-key and relatively safe atmosphere. So we'll be in Russell Square on Friday, 1st of October from 3 p.m. We'll meet at the northwestern corner entrance near the Green Cafe, if you know where that is. And yeah, bring food, bring drinks, bring somewhere to sit. I'll bake something for anybody who's willing to share food, and we hope to see you there or at the seminars. I think you had some stuff to say about the sort of atmosphere we're trying to create.
Exactly. So I think it's like necessary to share my own experience. So I moved to London in September 2018. That was like my first time ever abroad after I graduated in Italy for both my undergrad and master's. I knew no one here in London, and that was a great opportunity for me to be introduced in both the academic and non-academic community, meet colleagues, meet other students, and also have the opportunity to share my research, to share my doubts about what I was doing, my own experience, to receive some like fundamental, essential feedback, and also to like build some of what are currently my best friendships.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's also like a fundamental social space.
Yeah, it's a really great facet, I suppose, of the ICS's main aim of community building in classics. But this particular seminar, we postgraduate students are the stars of the show in a way. So yeah, I think we'd both really encourage you to get involved, because it's been a really great part of both our times as students so far. Yeah. And email us with any questions, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. If I may echo what they've said, I first heard about it from Vincent Fourcade, who at the time was participating there too, as a fantastic space where no professor, lecturer, and so on were allowed, and where there were no holds barred, and huge discussion and lots of fun. And then once I had the privilege of attending, because the speaker may, if they want, invite, and then you're allowed to go. Normally, I'm not allowed to go. And it was really, really exactly as Vincent had said, and it was really nice. So take this opportunity. If you're free, just join and participate. So that was actually a fitting conclusion, because what we've seen so far is, as it were, the free part of the program, the part that you choose. You know, you can go to the library, you may want to do this or that, and I hope that you will do and attend a lot of these seminars. Next, we move to the teaching part, which is an extremely important part of the program, and I hope that it will be also just as pleasurable, but it's not entirely free. You've got to do it. So, so we move to the introduction from the participating colleges, and please bear in mind that even if you don't belong to that particular college of which we're speaking at any given moment, it is almost all the more important that you listen about how things work there, because of the intercollegiate systems, because their regulation will apply to you potentially if you take something there. So thanks again to Barbara and Christiana, and we move on to the intercollegiate MA provision at King's College Classics. Lindsay.
Hi, hello everybody. Some of you I've already talked to this morning, those of you coming into King's, and hopefully I won't be duplicating much information from that. You've already, I think, heard a vast amount more useful information about the intercollegiate system. I wanted to just say a few words about coming down to King's for any teaching this semester. We're offering quite a few postgraduate MA modules this year. You'll be coming down here if you're doing Greek and engaging Greece with Honda van Steen, and later on, I think, words and pictures in Greco-Roman antiquity. and also my own course, which is Persepolis, which is looking at the Persian Empire and the capital of that Persian Empire, Persepolis. So I work on ancient Iran. When you look up, when you get your options confirmed, and if you're coming from outside of King's, you'll need to check the campus location, because we are teaching, as Touchwood, in person this semester. And in most cases, we also have, I think in all cases this semester, we have online access being provided by a sort of microphone and camera set up in each teaching room. So you are hopefully going to be able, if you have to stay home for any reason or remote from London, join in the teaching and join in the discussions. That does take quite a bit of motivation to join in the discussions online. So do sort of keep feeding back to us how that is working for you. I don't know whether I can share a screen just to show you, but I'm going to put in a link in the chat to the map for the Strand campus. And if you click on that link, you'll notice that there's a whole series of buildings around down at the bottom of Kingsway. So if you're coming down from Bloomsbury, it's straight down Kingsway on a number of the buses that come through Bloomsbury. It's also kind of handy for South London. Most of the scheduled classes for classics will be in Bush House, the King's Building, or the Strand Building. And the only thing to really note about that is that the Bush House has a number of different entrances, so you do need to kind of click on the map and double check where anything is before you reach it, because you could find yourself going in the wrong section and taking a while to reach it. So those are the main spots that you need to be aware of. For the online access, you need to fill in your intercollegiate form, registration form if you're coming from outside of King's, and so that you can get access to our Moodle, which within King's we call Keats. You also hopefully should, I think rather faster than some years, be registered on that system as soon as possible. So registered according to our own internal registry. There will be a Q&A later, so if anything has come up in relation to the sort of access to King's materials or King's buildings in the meantime, then please do feel free to ask me. Then within the Classics office in King's, which is kind of off to the side of the Strand campus in a corner overlooking Surrey Street, you will find our administrators, Charlotte and Jana, and they have been the most sort of present contact people for any MA students emailing us for any details. So you will no doubt, if you haven't already, become more familiar with them in the future. And our chair of postgraduate taught exams this semester is John Pierce. So he is somebody that you may need to know about or contact if you have any queries about submission of assessment. I think that's everything for now, Paola. Is there anything else you can think of that I should address, apart from to say come down and visit King's for any socials, or the Courtauld is opening, the Strand is being pedestrianised, it's all happening. So it's worth coming down and checking out.
Actually, this is really important. Not just that, but the Warburg. I mean, take your chance with London. Just go again. And now that you can, by the way, this year, so far, as long as you can, don't want to risk too much. Yes, thank you. That was perfect. Then maybe Nick with Royal Holloway.
Sure, sorry. If I seem a little distracted, it's because I'm simultaneously in two different meetings. We're also, Royal Holloway, as usual, is ahead of the world. So we're actually a week ahead of as Paola said at the head of the meeting, where we are starting teaching next week. And we have got I'm simultaneously in a virtual room full of our first years, talking to them. I hope to God we all keep to time, because otherwise it's going to be chaos and I'm going to speak to both of you once. But I actually have had an earphone in each ear for the entirety of this meeting, and I am actually able to process both of you at once. So yes, I'm the MA director for Royal Holloway, and I just have a few things very similar to Lindsay's King's a list to run through with you. By far the most important of which is excellent, Lindsay. Yes, yeah, the space-time continuum is just going to be annihilated by the end of this. So the really important thing is that because some of our the Royal Holloway modules start next week, we want to try and get you onto the Moodle system ASAP. And this has never gone well, but I will drop one more copy of the Royal Holloway Intercollegiate form into the chat. If I can find what I did with the copy of it that I oh God, that I downloaded from the other computer I'm on. Here we go, this one. If you haven't already filled that in, things like Lena Rubinstein's oratory module are starting on Monday, and it would be wonderful if you can actually be on our Moodle by then. Is it going to happen? I don't know. So I'm also going to drop in the chat, and this is where Zoom may object to my line breaks, just a bunch of no, that's all right, that worked, of individual emails of people who are leading the modules that you may be signing up for. Royal Holloway, of course, is the host this year of two of the three core modules. We're the host for sources and methods. So the first session for that will be on Friday week. And similarly, the core module, the research methods for art and archaeology, will be starting on Friday week under Zena Kamash. So if we don't manage to get you on the Moodle system in time, it's a little easier at Royal Holloway because they allow staff a little bit more control than King's do, where you're not allowed to touch anything at all. But nevertheless, we've always found it tough to get everyone registered for the first week. And we have workarounds for it, but it often involves emailing people stuff individually. I thought the other thing that would possibly be useful if I can share a screen, but maybe I can't. I'll drop this in the chat actually, is just to say something about the modes of delivery and what we're doing on each of the modules, because everyone is emerging from, I'll just stick this in the chat. Am I able to share a screen? Maybe I am actually. God, I made the mistake of updating Zoom this morning, which now presents me with an enormous number of windows, none of which I recognize. Now I can't see the word window in which I have this actual document open. But just to, I mean, if you can see the list of the Royal Holloway modules with their various times in the that are just stuck in the chat, all of them are currently intended to be in person. Mostly on the Egham campus, but Kate Cooper's Household and Empire is in our Bedford Square premises, room Bedford Square 101. My Ancient Novel next term is going to be in one of our Bedford Square or Senate House rooms, and the core modules for sources and methods and research methods in art and archaeology are going to be online, because obviously we don't want everyone from all the colleges having to find space in their timetable to to get out to Egham, and none of our central London rooms are big enough for those. If there's any questions about any of that, please do email me, and I'll clarify anything that that I know how to clarify. Otherwise, I think that's all I need to say, because I'm going to hand over to Harold Lambos, who's going to tell you about the modules running out of the history department, which is particularly the labs ones.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Thank you. Greetings. On behalf of the History Department at Royal Holloway and the MA in Late Antique and Byzantine Studies, I have not much to add to Nick's remarks and information, but a few words on the history and the structure of our Intercollegiate MA program. Now, Late Antique and Byzantine Studies at Royal Holloway, University of London, and the University of London in general have a long tradition. It was Professor John Hussey that first introduced and devised the study of Byzantine history in the University of London in 1950. Throughout her long academic career, Professor Hussey instilled, I quote, the principles of scholarship and demonstrated the perfect balance between historical detail and the wider implication of the subject. This was a legacy of her teacher, the eminent Byzantinist Professor Norman Baines. Meanwhile, it was Professor Peter Brown who invented the field of late antiquity in historical studies and introduced its teaching at Royal Holloway between 1975 and 78. Now, John Hussey's legacy was continued by my own teacher, Julian Chrysostomidis, who passed away in 2008. She taught the next generations of undergraduate and postgraduate students in 1985, together with Professor Jonathan Rowley-Smith and Professor Athanasios Angelou. She established the taught MA degree program in Byzantine Studies at Royal Holloway. This program centered on the middle and later period of Byzantine history, placing particular emphasis on Byzantine sources and Greek paleography. This initiative was joined by King's College London under Professor Averill Cameron, who, following the legacy of Peter Brown, focused her interest on late antiquity and early Byzantium. In this way, the present federal MA program, or intercollegiate rather, program in late antique and Byzantine studies took its original form. From October 2009, the MA program is offered as part of the intercollegiate arrangements among University of London colleges, King's College, Royal Holloway, and University College, with the support also of Birkbeck College. Now, taught over 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time, it is designed especially for those who are interested to proceed with doctoral research in late antique and Byzantine studies, and it also aims to relate the history of late antiquity in Byzantium to the wider world. Since its establishment, a large number of students have successfully completed our program, and many continued and earned their doctorate. Today, graduates of the program hold the research and teaching posts, as well as positions in diplomacy, museums and publishing, universities, research centers, and state, corporate, and private institutions in Britain and abroad, which testify to its success. Now, the aims of the program. The objective of our program is to prepare students from a variety of backgrounds for further research in late antique and Byzantine studies, a field in which undergraduate level courses are rarely available, and to ensure that they acquire some essential skills and are introduced to several more. The program requires students to study classical or Byzantine Greek or classical or medieval Latin at an appropriate level, to acquire research skills and methodological tools and techniques, including reading inscriptions, papyri, and manuscripts copied in Greek and or Latin, dating and categorizing them according to their style of handwriting, and placing them in the historical and cultural context, or studying artistic, architectural, and archaeological evidence in order to better appreciate the material culture and built environment, to attend a series of seminars which offer a framework to the subject and an introduction to different methodologies, to study one subject area in depth in a course option, and to write a dissertation on a chosen topic. So the structure of the program consists of 4 elements, each counting for 25% of the overall mark. Some courses are 20 credits, that is the half unit courses, and some full courses for 40 credits. The courses available have been posted in our shared drive at the Institute of Classical Studies, so I will not go into the details of the courses offered this year, only to say that there are available courses for language. There are also Greek papyrology and Greek paleography offered, full unit courses running for the whole year, and quite a few of optional courses concerning a late antique family, and Roman and late antique families, and early Byzantine families, also Byzantium and the Crusades, and also the material culture and built environment in late antiquity. The weekly timetable also is available, and we will discuss it when we are in our little circle. Students who need to contact the Royal Holloway History Department would better get in touch with me, and I will then put you in touch and forward your messages to various tutors or administrators if need be. Finally, in 2021 and 2022, we celebrate the 200th anniversary, the bicentenary of the Greek War of Independence that started in 1821. And this was celebrated with the 21 in 21 program of events supported by the A.G. Leventis Foundation with the collaboration of the National Bank of Greece and another initiative which is called 1821 to 2021. So you will find a list of the events in the link that I have just sent you. And if you wish to join us, it will be a great pleasure. Finally, on behalf of the History Department and the Hellenic Institute at Royal Holloway, which runs the MA in Late Antique and Byzantine Studies, warm and wholehearted wishes for a healthy, peaceful, and fruitful new academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Harald. I didn't know how right I was when I said that there will be more events that you can even imagine and attend. So now you've also got this on your radar. Fabulous. And thanks for the wishes as well, which we probably need. Next, Miriam, we move to UCL.
Hi, I'm Miriam Leonard. I'm the MA tutor in the Department of Greek and Latin. And as Paola's already mentioned, things are complicated in various forms, but at UCL, we divide the MA teaching between the Department of Greek and Latin and the History Department, whom you'll hear from in a minute. So we have a number of modules available this year, Greek dialects and Greek papyrology, which run over the whole year, 40 credits, Greek drama, which is next term, Virgil, which is this term, and Ovid, which is next term. And then we also have the Approaches to Reception course, which runs over the whole year, and then Classical Athens in Modern Political Theory and Ancient Greece on Stage. Classical Athens in Modern Political Theory running this term, and Ancient Greece on Stage next term. So those are the modules that we are offering this year. They are all going to be in person, taught in person, and apart from the Ovid module, which is running next term, which will be online, which will be entirely taught online. That's the idea at the moment, anyway. So, but all the other modules will be taught in person on campus at UCL. Paola's just asked me, is it possible to say only half of the entire 40 credit modules? So Greek drama is only a 20 credit module. It's Greek dialects and Greek papyrology, which are 40 credits, and usually they are taken as 40 credits. The Approaches course, which is Approaches to Reception course, which is a 40 credit module, can be taken as a 20 credit module in term one. But Greek dialects and Greek papyrology are usually the full 40 credits. So those are the modules that we're running, and as Lindsay's and everyone else has already mentioned, it'd be really helpful if you can fill out your intercollegiate forms as soon as possible if you are taking those modules. I'm pasting a link to the intercollegiate form to do that. We've mentioned what the reason for filling in those intercollegiate forms is primarily to allow you access to our Moodle sites, to our virtual learning environment. At UCL, we do have quite a lot of control over that, and I'm going to encourage all my colleagues to make those modules guest accessible, so they will be available to you even before you get your UCL credentials, and they will have a password. They'll be password protected. Last year we made all of our passwords pizza, and I think that's probably what we'll do this time. But I'll ask the module coordinator to email the students and let them know what how to gain access. But hopefully that will mean that everyone can gain access from the first week. As Paola mentioned, for us and for King's, that's not next week, but the week after the teaching will start. What else can I say? I've already mentioned, Moodle, and that will be a very important element. Like King's, we are also going to be recording all our classes, so they will be available if you, for one reason or another, have to miss a class. You'll be able to follow that through a recording or follow live through the lesson. So a little bit like exactly like what King's are doing. We're going to try and have a kind of hybrid model of teaching this term, but we strongly encourage you, if you're able to come to the class in person, because you will just get a much richer experience. And it is quite difficult, as Lindsay's already mentioned, to participate online from home. But so we're seeing it primarily as a way to make sure that if, for one reason or another, you're not able to attend, you can at least have access to the material through a recording afterwards, if not through live participation. People to be aware of, Alex Balcunias is our administrator in our department, and he is fantastically helpful on everything to do with the MA. So if you have any kind of technical problems or any problems with registration and so on and so forth, Alex Balcunias is the person to get to write to. I was also going to put in a map UCL of the Bloomsbury campus, where everything will be taking place. Many of these modules will take place in Department of Greek and Latin itself, which is situated in Gordon House on Gordon Street, opposite the Bloomsbury Theatre, but not all. And the map will help you orient yourself. But most places will be within a 5-minute radius of that building. So if you get to know Gordon Square with the history department on one side and us on the other, you'll be well oriented. I think that was all I had to say.
Brilliant. Oh, sorry, I don't use myself. Okay, thank you very much. Then let's go with Yamur on the history side of things. But that was the work around what Miriam said about giving access as guests that Nick Lowe was alluding to. And UCL is notoriously relatively slow in creating those real IDs that allow you to access. Don't be satisfied just with the guest access, because then you can't submit. So you do want eventually the full access, and as soon as can be is better. But at least you can move on. Yeah. Yamur?
All right, thank you, Paula. Hello, my name is Yamur Hifron, and I'm here representing the history department at UCL. I'm the MA tutor for ancient history this year and for the next 2 years. I'm actually an archaeologist specializing in Bronze Age Turkey, and I teach ancient Middle East history at UCL. So I'm also responsible for one of the UCL offerings this year on the MA Intercollegiate menu, if you like. So if anyone's signed up for or is thinking of signing up for images and image making in the ancient Near East, that'll be me. We also offer 4 other courses. So anyone who's wanting to kick around propaganda and ideology in Rome, economy of classical Athens, Hellenistic encounters with Egypt, and the transmission of knowledge in the ancient world, they'll be with us at UCL. I was also going to try to show you a map as well. I don't know if I can share a screen, but we're basically just across the road from Greek and Latin on Gordon Square. And, you know, unless something very unpredictable happens, I expect all of our teaching to take place sort of in the history department. The plan is for all MA teaching to be done in person this year in 2-hour weekly seminars, which are capped at 15 students each. So this is what allows us to keep a safe number for face-to-face teaching. I don't really have any updated information on sort of emergency measures if any of you are trapped at home and unable to come to campus, but we will make sure that there's a workable sort of solution around that if and when such situations arise. So we've heard a little bit about sort of the opportunities and the events and everything that London offers you. And again, as part of an intercollegiate program such as this, you get to belong to a lot of different communities. And as I'm sort of representing, I suppose, along with Lindsay also here, the ancient Near Eastern community across London, I just wanted to say a few words about what happens on that side of ancient history. UCL obviously has an active role in ancient Near Eastern events across London. So I wanted to, I'll type this website into the chat, alert you to the existence of the London Centre for the Ancient Near East, which holds seminar series throughout the year during autumn and summer, spring terms. And the upcoming series is already advertised online. These will also be held in person, held in the Institute of Archaeology this year with a couple of, I think, events online. So if this is a world that you'd like to visit regularly or occasionally, that's also something that's open to you. I also happen to be the membership secretary for the London Centre, and I can tell you for the bargain price of £7.50 a year at the student rate, you can become a member, which I think is especially important now as we have to limit numbers for in-person attendance. So if you're a member, you're more likely to get a seat. Other Near East related things, while I've got the microphone here, I might as well just sort of, take advantage, are that sort of obviously if you are taking any sort of courses related to, or your research brings you out of the, more popular world of Greece and Rome and into the Near East, you will find the SOAS library much more useful to your purposes to an extent. As a University of London student, you do have access to the SOAS library. You should be able to have borrowing rights, but be aware that they won't be issuing or processing any new memberships for the 2 weeks after the week starting September 27th, because obviously they have to prioritize their own students. So if you do want to become a member of the SOAS library, get registered, you have this week, or you have to wait for a couple of weeks afterwards, but that's a good place for resources as well. Anything else that I should mention? Probably not. My details are on various documents, so you can get in touch with me. And yeah, as I already, I think, mentioned to UCL students when I met them earlier this month. You can think of me as the fairy godmother of all ancient history MA related things at UCL. And if you need me to wave my magic wand, I'll do my best. So thank you.
So thank you, Yağmur. I think there is one last thing that I may want to add, not to UCL, which was brilliantly covered, or to any of the colleges actually, but about the whole. And I have the role of the unpleasant reminder, maybe. One is that you look at the timetable, factor in the time it takes to move from one college to the other. If it's from Greek and Latin to UCL history, that's easy. But if it's King's, you need to consider some time, not too much, between King's and UCL. And if it's the Egham campus, you should be able to make it with half an hour. But I mean, you do have to think in those terms as well when looking at the timetable and choosing your modules. And that leads me to the second issue. I've seen in the chat a few questions about choosing the modules. So you can choose modules in your own college, and that's easy, and you can choose modules in other departments, and there you fill a form, which your administrators should have sent you as part of a general package. They're not difficult to find. You email any one of us, we'll give you the form. Then that form you submit to your own administrator. So if you're a UCL student, the form goes to UCL. If you're a King's student, the form goes to King's, and so on. And then you sit and you hope, because we cannot guarantee that there are sufficient places on all modules for everyone. For very practical reasons, the modules are capped. To provide students with a better experience. Of course, a smaller class is a nicer environment to discuss research, but also because of the fact that the rooms now have a limited capacity, and so we can't just, blow up numbers. So hopefully, and you'll manage to get on the modules you want. Usually that is the case, but please think hard now at the latest on what you want to do and put in those forms, because the more you wait and the more difficult it will be to switch, for instance, if something has already begun, or in general to get a place on whichever module you're hoping to get on. I'm sorry that I have to, but I did mention practicalities and difficulties, and this is one of them. So be on the ball with these forms and try to fill up your choices according to the various requirements as quickly as can be. Other questions, and maybe I propose, since now we have a bit of time for questions, we have a lot of time because we've been very good in keeping time. Maybe you could simply, everyone in the room, unmute yourself and ask, or else post in the chat, and I'm keeping an eye on the chat, as you prefer. Just unmute and go, or look in the chat. Yes. So there are already, yes, I am unmuted. There are already two questions. So the first one is there any chance we know when you find out if you've gotten onto a module or not? I can't know, I'm not an administrator. Those who know are actually your administrators. The thing you can do is continue asking them, I think, or ask the tutor. So for UCL history, that would be Yağmur, it would be Miriam for, and so on, the names that you had on the program. You ask them, do you know anything? But they won't know either. I mean, those who know are the administrators. There is a system of priority. So if the module is a clearly archaeological module, an ancient historian might get a place, but if places are contested and there is an archaeologist who is also asking, then the archaeologist will be prioritized. It makes sense. So as long as you're asking for things that are really bang on the remit of your program, you should be able to get on that module. But I cannot know, that's the administrators, and there is no strict deadline. The moment everything is in, that's the moment when we really know. Usually places are given depending on whether you're in the right program and your choice marks, they are given as the questions come, as the applications come, sorry. So, but maybe someone else knows more than I do here. Other questions?
I think I might be able to sort of contribute a little bit to that. I've just been informed by the sort of our admin team at UCL that sort of our students were sort of told about what modules they were allocated. I think there's still some room for, fixing errors and, moving things around, but they should have received emails in the last sort of couple of days about the modules that they got on. But I don't know if other students have been informed about UCL modules. So.
Okay. The question, could we change the allotted modules? There is no allotted module, in the sense that if you don't get on a module, you should have, at least at UCL, the form allows you to put other preferences. We won't put you into a module where you don't want to go. You could still change, I think, within at least for undergraduate students, there is a deadline of 2 weeks or something, and then you have to continue with whatever you do. Again, this is an area where different colleges may have different regulations. So I think that you should ask your tutors about changes rather than this very general forum, because I just cannot know. And then,
Paola, can I just say something about that because it comes up in a couple of the questions. There's a distinction between filling out the registration form, which you have to do if you're taking a module at another college. But what that allows you to do is get credentials from that college, so an email from that college, and therefore access to the Moodle sites and so on, library access and so on and so forth. But you also have to tell your home, institution what module choices you're going to make. So there's a distinction between the form you fill in and how you apply for a module, which happens through your home institution. And then the home institution is in touch with UCL or King's or whatever about the modules that you've decided to take. Sorry, I don't know if that was more confusing or less confusing, but you have to fill out these registration forms, but you will also have been informed by your own home institution how to tell them what module choices you want to make.
Yes, I mean, UCL students, just to be clear, you have Portico and you have a screen and you've got to put choices in there and they have to adapt fundamentally. There is a total of credits that you have to reach, no? I think that was what Miriam had in mind. Yes. Sorry, because I think that I may be losing things. So yes, Rebecca, that was the question about the registration or something else. Okay. Latin course at Birkbeck, intermediate. You can register to that course. I know students who have registered to intermediate Latin. In the past, when I was tutor, I just went to the administrator, to the secretary. We found the code. We put the code on Portico. She rang Birkbeck. I think it's Ben Gray who teaches it at Birkbeck. Anyone knows something more detailed than that? Please, you're welcome to say it. Otherwise, well, for UCL student, leave it with me and I'll check with Desna what exactly you have to do. But I suspect that it's as simple as, again, putting it on your Portico choices with the right code, which I can fish if they have lost it meanwhile, and then the exchange takes place. Sorry, no, that's not the answer. What if the timetable clashes? Well, that's it. If it clashes, you can't take it. I'm sorry. It's as simple as that. And I agree, there is at least one clash that is really an unpleasant clash, but you can put it into the feedback. I would be really grateful if there are clashes that you find are not really acceptable. I would be really grateful if you put that into the feedback, and maybe if you inform the administrators or the tutors as well, so that they can take note, and then we can, try to work around that for another year. This year there were also constraints with the rooms. So, oh, fantastic. Thanks, Lindsay.
Paolo, what was the horrendous clash, out of curiosity, or are you remaining diplomatically silent?
Well, there is I mean, Yamur knows it can't be worked around, but there is an absurd clash between Hittite and art and archaeology in the second millennium, or is it, I don't remember the exact name, but I mean, you know, on the one side, you look at it from archaeology, on the other from the language, and somehow that there was just no way to it's and not true. The two teachers were both of them willing to move. That's the most absurd thing. So I suspect it has to be something to do with the rooms. But
so yeah, Mark Whedon's Hittite language class, which is taught out of Greek and Latin, is clashing with my images and image making in the ancient Near East, which is taught out of UCL history. And we just couldn't move things around in a way that to prevent a clash until after it was too late. So.
Oh, apologies for not forgetting to mention the Hittite class in my list. Actually, it was further down the list and I forgot to mention it. But yes, we're also offering that.
It's called Greek and Latin, but they offer much more than that, including reception, actually. So Tessa asks, but there's maybe also an answer. Tessa asks if I was allocated a module that was not on my selected list at all. But you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. What may happen is that your administrator tells you or any student, okay, the only modules on which spaces remain, on which spaces are available are, and gives you a list. I don't think that anyone can put you on a module that you haven't selected. It just shouldn't. Anyway, no, because there is this difference between the registration form and choosing a specific module. So I don't think you need to resubmit any form. Again, it's just a matter of insisting with the administration that that is the module you want to do and not the other one. So is there, can you unmute yourself? Is there here someone who has been allocated a module that they didn't want to do? Or is it just, yeah?
I wanted to take approaches to the reception, and I was instead allocated the classical frontiers, Northern Black Sea, which was not on my selected list at all. So I wanted to try again to get into approaches to the reception.
Well, you definitely should, I think. But I'm sure that if you have a conversation with Miriam, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would say that I had a conversation with our administrator. Approaches is massively oversubscribed. We had over 30 people wanting to do it, and we just can't run a 30 per person class this term. I mean, for intellectual reasons that Paola is mentioning, that we just, it's a discussion-based class, and two, for COVID safe reasons. So unfortunately, some people who put down approaches who are not at UCL and not on the reception MA, unfortunately, we can't accept everybody. So in that case, but as Paola says, there should be a whole host of other modules that you will be offered, so that you don't have to do the one that you've been offered just because another course is oversubscribed.
Yeah, Tessa, drop me an email if that's something that's cropped up. Although bear in mind that I think we're only maybe gradually releasing things on towards the end of the week. For King's module assignments, but do get in touch with whatever that glitch has been. Okay, we'll look for other options.
Okay. And Royal Holloway has some flexibility concerning potential clashes in term 2, which is good news. What else? Okay.
I say potential. That's only because they haven't published it yet. But I noticed, for example, that my ancient novel was clashing with an hour of something else. And so I've quietly tweaked it, and we'll see whether we manage to get a room that fits the time. But let me know, because obviously the more I know about clashes, the more I can do about them.
I'm thinking it may well be that further questions come up as we move on. So, Cici, you want to say something?
Yes, because I was also allotted to the classical frontiers and I haven't made these choices in my Moodle. And as I know, one other student is also in the same circumstances. So I wonder if there's something wrong in this, or can we change to another module because we have no previous knowledge for this module?
I am 98% certain that there must be other modules available for which you do have the previous knowledge. Presumably, the administrator who put you on that module thought this is the closest one, and they may have thought mistakenly, that I don't know. But you are still, teaching starts in 2 weeks in most colleges, not at Royal Holloway, but the others in 2 weeks. So there is still some time. So you go there or you get in touch per email and say, look, this particular module, I just don't have the background. I'm not interested in doing it. I would prefer, and then you list them in a priority order, whatever else you prefer, give a long list, at least 3, saying this one would be the best one, second choice, third choice, just so as to offer a few possibilities, because as I said, it is not an easy puzzle for the administrators either. And you should be able to get on something else. We too don't want, as an MA module teacher, I just prefer to have people who choose to come to my module rather than people who are sent to me. We do try to have, to do what we can. So try to work around it the way I suggest, putting in a list of at least 1, 2, 3 options, making quite clear which is the best, second best, third best.
Okay, thank you so much.
I would just say that I think, sorry to jump in, I'm just double checking tutorial list. Cici, your personal tutor is Honda, so if you could email her about that directly, just so that we have a sort of detailed heads up and it's not lost in the Classics office inbox. And Tessa, actually also your Honda, so feel free to CC me. I'll put both of our email addresses in the chat in a second. And the other query here from Zoe, I have a feeling, I started typing an answer there, I have a feeling that's just a registry issue, I hope, which is that King's registry might not have a code for your actual external module yet, and that should appear, but hopefully you'll get confirmation by the end of the week. So sorry everybody, there's clearly King's module machinations going on, but we'll sort them out. Okay.
Okay, I see also that there are quite a lot of complex messages about taking modules in archaeology and so on. Here, I can't enter into the specifics. It wouldn't make sense. But what I know about the intercollegiate agreement is that if you're a student at UCL, you have a certain number of credits, 40 credits, that you can use to take not just out of the intercollegiate modules, but in general in any other offerings that UCL has. So you could take UCL archaeology modules, you could go to the Jewish Studies department, you could go to anthropology. I believe that if you're a King student, you can also proceed in a similar way with modules that are offered at King's in other departments, okay? What you can't do is intersect. That I don't think you can. That is, take a module that is offered by a department that is not part of the intercollegiate agreement in another institution. There are always, sorry, but we haven't spoken of them, but there are the digital modules on offer also at the ICS that we should remember. Those are open, they are on the list. Okay, so where lectures will be taken? There will be a map. So sorry, I'm looking now at the question about where if there is a map for Royal Holloway. I thought that there was one posted by Nick, but I'm not sure. Otherwise, maybe you could write to Nick, who has given very helpfully a complete list, or to an administrator and ask them. Then Zizao asks, if the core modules, ancient history, starts 1 week earlier. Yes, it starts 1 week earlier. So the core, for all of you ancient historians, and there must be at least 30 ancient historians here, you start next week on Friday, I think. We'll check with Christos in the breakout, but I'm fairly sure that it's like that. Then how do we go about accessing module kits for colleges other than your home one? That's the part about the workaround. So once you have filled in this registration form and you've been allocated on a module, your name appears miraculously on that Moodle, and also you receive a card from the institution, which allows you, well, you've got to go and take it, which allows you to access their library. And that is useful as well, because that way you can spread over various libraries in London, and maybe one is closer to you, even if it's not your institution. So the card is useful, and you'll get onto the Moodle. But it takes some time to process these forms. At UCL, it can take as much as 6 weeks, which is a disgrace, but so it is. I hope it won't, but it's taken 6 weeks in the past. So what do you do meanwhile, while you don't have access? Well, we offer you guest access, which means that you can see all the PowerPoints, see all the handouts, and so on and so forth. You just can't submit work. But anyway, in the first week, you don't have to submit much work usually. And, it's called a workaround. It's not perfect, but it's a workaround. For the other colleges, it's more or less similar, but King's doesn't allow for workarounds. Their security system is tighter. On the other hand, I think they're slightly speedier in giving you the cards. And anyway, the teachers of the modules, you can email them directly. Last year, for the first 2 weeks, they were willing to send the separate worksheet per email, which is a lot of work, but as I said, they did it, and very generously. That's about it. Okay, some of the answers are being given, so okay, the map comes.
Louise says she'd like to ask a question out loud, so yes, please do.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I only, sorry, this is, I'll try and keep this quick, but due to some issue, I only was able to get my forms in really recently, and I just happened to pick 2 modules at UCL. And by the sounds of the conversation, although it's not confirmed, they may or may not be full. So I was wondering if the modules I apply for at UCL as a Royal Holloway student are not accepted, does anyone know what will happen? Will I have to take modules at my own uni, or will I be offered other modules at UCL, or I just don't know what will happen?
That's probably a question for me, really, because as a Royal Holloway student, no, we'll go down your list. When you filled in the Royal Holloway form, you did put in some reserved choices, but I hope, with luck, it won't come to that. We'll worry about it if it happens, is it's the lazy answer to that.
Thank you, Nick.
It is the sensible answer, don't start despairing before the time has come. But yes, as I said, you do a list with priorities, and you shouldn't be bumped onto anything, there will be choices. Okay. Anyone wants to ask something? There will be, again, possibilities in the breakout groups, but then it should concern your program, and then, it should also help. Yeah, teaching spaces, yes. Okay, I think our department too, UCL History, is trying to have some places. The question much earlier was about having a Zoom meeting. Hopefully then you have these things that you plug onto your ears and so on, because otherwise that's the end of the quiet space, of course, but it should be feasible. There is also a huge student house next to UCL. And of course, once, even if you're not a UCL student, once you have the card, you know, you are a UCL student for all the purposes of the program. So you will be able to get into the student house, and there will be study spaces. Same for our students who would be at King's or at Royal Holloway. Audit language classes. Well, I don't know that my answer is the one that will be taken by the various teachers. My recommendation in the case of audits is always to write a very polite email to the person who teaches the module, explaining the reasons why you would like to audit and asking if it's possible. Usually, as I said, we like people who are interested. So I've never ever refused anyone to audit personally. But of course, there may be constraint. That is, if it's in a room that can take only so many persons, then it takes only so many persons. Second, if it's a module that's meant for discussion, the audit, you know, it can audit, but it should not maybe talk too much, because otherwise the other students, you know, their own experience diminishes. So I would ask, but bear in mind that a negative answer doesn't mean I don't want. It would simply mean there are complications. But yeah.
Paula, I think there is a sort of UCL policy. I'm not sure if it's just a departmental policy about not allowing audits this year as long as sort of number limitations and room limitations go on. I know this is definitely a hard no for undergraduate modules, and my impression was that the same rule applies to MA modules as well. Again, I think partly to do with the sort of still the hybrid nature. But my advice usually is to, again, you know, get in touch with the module tutor and see if they're happy to sort of maybe direct you to reading lists, other course material that you might be able to sort of audit at a distance, as it were. You know, if you're interested, as Paula said, we like that, and we would try to sort of, you know, give you something. But I think we might have a rule against allowing sort of students to audit this year.
Thank you. Yes. Nelly? Nell, sorry, Nell?
Yes, am I hearable?
Yes.
I was just wondering, as a RHUL student who has already submitted their course choices, I submitted some of my course choices under the impression that something like Household and Empire and the core module for archaeology were being done in person at the Holloway campus. So I worked out some of my kind of decisions on what modules to take using that. However, in light of the new information of them being done online and in central London, is there any way that I can change those around, wanting to take Greek instead of others?
I mean, that, obviously, some of the central London modules will have filled up now, but yeah, sorry, it was in the ICS timetable page where everything was happening. But yes, Household and Empire is indeed in Bedford Square, and so more of your timetable is now freed up, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Did we get all the questions in the chat? I'm just scanning them now. Has anybody not had their question answered that was in the chat?
Unsure? Francesca, Alex, would you want to unmute yourselves maybe?
Hello, sorry, there's three of us here. Two of us are at King's and one of us is at UCL. And we're unsure over how to properly access the the other unis cards so we can get into like the lectures and buildings? Like, do we need to fill out specific forms? Because we've all filled out the like module registration forms, but we don't know what else we need to do.
Yeah, as I said in the chat, as far as Royal Holloway is concerned, buildings, I believe, are not, unlike last year, they're not going to have controlled entry. So you should be able to waltz in and make off with ashtrays and whatever else you want to do. I don't know what's happening with the other colleges, though.
So I would say at King's, you do need a card because they have erected these highly, trying to find a diplomatic way of putting it, can't think of it. Anyway, impermeable systems. However, they've got friendly guards at the moment, in the foyers that are kind of allowing people through at the beginning of term. So you just need to kind of say why you're visiting, who you're visiting. You're maybe there for a timetabled session or something, and they let you through, or they prompt you to sign in, I think. So that is in process. I'm actually not entirely sure where through. I mean, as I think everybody else has said, the registration form that you filled out for any intercollegiate course should eventually give you the card that gets you in for that teaching. It's just a question of making sure that you pay attention to your email to follow up to go and collect the card to get in. So that's just something to pay attention to, and hopefully, you know, as it were, the security systems will be forgiving for the first week or two.
Yeah. I mean, I think the advice is definitely, you know, turn up to your classes. That's the most important thing, whether you've got your card or not, and you will be able to get in. I think, I mean, at UCL, most places are not carded, but some places are. I mean, our building usually has a porter, but you just need to explain that you're there for a particular module. And I'm sure if you show your you know, Royal Holloway or UCL King's card, they'll know you're a student.
Well, UCL history is closed. Our department is more difficult to access, but just monitor the email. Indeed, check the spam as well and so on, because you should receive a notification there, and then with a date and a place where you can go and collect the card at some point. And maybe get in touch with the module coordinator if you see that you can't access, you know, because if you're just outside, they may just allow you in. Yamur, I don't know, but my sense is that it's really barred in our department.
I don't know, because you could still go around, but you'd need to still sort of card yourself through the other way. So yeah, I don't have a solution either.
Usually on the hour, you know, there's so many people coming in and out. You'll be able to get in. I mean, I know this isn't good, you know, this isn't kosher advice, but you need to get to your classes, and it's quite unlikely that all of you will have your cards on the first day of your class. So you need to physically turn up and find, and I'm sure you will find a way in. I mean, on the hour, there's so many people coming in and out of buildings that, you know, I'm absolutely sure you'll manage to get through the barricades.
May I suggest using sort of induction week sort of social activities to buddy up? So find friends from other departments, other institutions, and you know, maybe you can let each other in, and you can collaborate.
Okay, on that particularly very nice recommendation, I propose that we move on to the virtual library tour, and then we can, you know, there is another opportunity for question. There will be breakout groups, so we can continue this, but absolutely make friends. It's the best way also for intellectual progress, but in practical situations as well. It's one as the card. So, Joanna, yes. Thank you. So over to you for the lecture.
Thank you. What I'll do is I'm going to share my screen and I'll play our tour. It's about 12 minutes long, and I apologize for the occasional slightly shaky camera work. Can everyone hear it? Are you saying nobody can hear the sound? Or is that just some people who can't?
No, I can't hear the sound.
Okay. Does anyone know how I make the sound share? Because I can hear the sound on my computer.
I'm sorry, I don't, but maybe you can speak over, or is it too complicated?
It probably is a bit too complicated because
okay.
Let me see. Share sound. Okay. Here we go.
And demonstrate the library services.
Is that working?
We start in the lobby
Yes.
of the 4th floor of Senate House South Block. At the moment, you can see that we have one-way systems and sanitizing points due to the pandemic. There are lockers here in the lobby that can be used if you have bags with you. Bags larger than this parcel cannot be taken into the library, although you are welcome to take your own books and laptops in with you. We can supply clear plastic bags to carry these if you need them. It's not possible to take food and drink into the library, apart from still bottled water. The first time you visit the library, you will need to collect your library card at the desk. You can sign up online in advance with either of the societies, or download an ICS membership form from our website and email it to us. Once you have your library card, you scan it here to enter the library. Due to the current COVID secure regulations, you'll need to book in advance and check in at the desk before entering. If you are borrowing or returning books, you will need to do so here at the library desk. You could also collect books here, ordered through our Click and Collect loan service. We can give you a printed map of the library to help you find your way around. And if you have any other questions, you can always find staff at the desk who will be happy to help.
Hi, I'm Shannon and I'm the Graduate Trainee Library Assistant. As you enter the library, you enter into a lovely corridor of books. This is the beginning of our literature section. The class marks begin at 76 on the left-hand side. As you follow the corridor along to the left, notable sections are those such as the primary texts in the form of Tubner texts, Oxford Classical texts, and Bude texts for the French parallel translation. On the right-hand side of the corridor are analytical texts dealing with both Greek and Latin literature and including the classical tradition in literature. The first literature room deals with classical authors in alphabetical order and includes both primary texts and secondary texts. So you can find, for example, both Aristotle's Poetics and a companion to Aristotle within the same section. Please note that the numbering in the classification system is not based in the decimal system. So for example, Sappho is 93.35, not 93.35. So our numbers go up as 31, 32, 33, etc. The second literature room continues this alphabetical sequence of authors, starting with Homer. But it also importantly contains a section of rolling stacks within which you can find vital general reference works, such as dictionaries, including dictionaries of mythology, and important encyclopedias such as Pauli's. For those working with classical reception, you might be interested to know that there is a modern fiction section on classical themes within the rolling stacks. These reservation shelves are for books that you have been using during your visit, which you would like to use again in future visits within the space of 5 days. Please use a separate reservation slip for each book.
Hello, I'm Paul Jackson and I'm the Deputy Librarian. Papyrology, Epigraphy and Paleography Room. As the name suggests, books on these 3 subjects are shelved here, as are the relevant periodicals. We have comprehensive holdings in the first two areas, so let us know if you find any gaps, but only keep the main paleographical works. The Senate House Library on the 4th floor has the university's main paleography collection. The room also houses auction catalogues, larger literature books, and most books in the library with the folio class mark published after 1900. The rest have to be requested in advance from the rare books room, as do any books with the cupboard location. Archaeology and art. This is our main reading room. The book sequence begins with Mycenaean and Minoan material facing the papyrology, epigraphy and paleography room, and then continues with Etruscan material and general topographical works, such as the Limes conferences. It continues with archaeology divided by area, such as Middle East, Russia, then Asia Minor / Turkey, Egypt, Africa, Cyprus and Crete, the Balkans, Italy, and then the rest of Europe, finishing with Great Britain. The archaeology and topography of Greece is out of sequence on the walls facing the back of the British Museum. In the art section, after general and then Greek and Roman and Byzantine / early Christian art, the subject is subdivided into architecture, general exhibition and museum catalogues, bronzes and sculpture, Greek and Roman vases, terracottas, lamps, and minor art, including jewellery, metalwork, and glass. Book trolleys. Book trolleys are available in each of the main reading rooms for books that you use during the day. Could you please make sure that you only put on a trolley books that come from that room? As we are quarantining books for 3 days after use at the moment, could you also ensure that you put books on the shelf labelled with the correct day? Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Christopher and I'm the Periodicals Library Assistant. The library seeks to acquire any periodical of academic quality relating to the ancient Greek and Roman worlds. Approximately 2/3 of our periodicals collection come on exchange with other libraries, universities and museums throughout the world. Most of the periodicals may be found in the rolling stacks at the back of the archaeology reading room, also referred to as stacks 1 to 18. Within these stacks, the periodicals are arranged alphabetically by the title of the periodical. In addition, there is a section for periodicals in Greek, stack 19, oversized periodicals, stack 20, and periodicals in Cyrillic, stack 28. Just beside the rolling stacks, there is a display of new periodicals which have been received during the past 3 months, in case you wish to browse the very latest additions to our collection. If you cannot find a periodical which you need, please ask to speak to the Periodicals Library Assistant, who will be happy to help you. Please take care when using the rolling stacks and make sure that there is nobody else inside the stacks before turning the handles. The majority of periodicals can be borrowed by members of the Hellenic or Roman societies. The only periodicals which are not available for loan are those which have the letter X before the class mark.
Hi, my name is Sue Willits and I'm the Senior Library Assistant. This section of the library, beyond the double set of doors, contains the books on ancient history, starting with sources, then Greek history and Roman history, as well as related subjects such as colonisation, democracy, law and politics. The sequence starts in the right-hand corner near the seating area and continues through the centre of the room. Towards the end is a large section on mythology and religion. Also in this room, along the side wall with the high windows, are books on philosophy, which is continued by a section on science, medicine and technology. The books on classical civilization follow on from a small collection on modern Greece and continues on both sides of the corridor and back into the main part of the room with sections on the army and warfare, trade and economy, and ending up with books on theatre performance, music and dance. There is also a small area at the end of the corridor which contains a collection of atlases and gazetteers and an ongoing series of volumes known as the Corpus Vasorum Antiquorum, CVA for short, covering collections of vases in museums around the world and arranged by country. This section of the library also includes 3 other rooms. One is dedicated to our collection on numismatics and has been named after John Casey. This includes books on coins as well as the journals on the subject, which have the class mark NUM for numismatics on the spine. Next, we have our computer room, from where it is possible to access specialised databases for which the library has subscriptions. This includes a database of Greek literature, the Thesaurus Linguae Graecae, and the Library of Latin Texts. There's a display board on the wall just behind the door showing more examples of our digital resources, and our website provides more details. There are 2 PCs available in this room at the moment, and due to our new arrangements, you will need to make a booking. There's a section of books here on computing and classics, which are accessible, but you will need to request any books from the closed section on wall painting and mosaics. To the right of the computer room, there are 4 research rooms, which are allocated to Institute of Classical Studies fellows. But the room at the end, labelled as Stack 29, is available to you and contains a PC set up for using the catalogue. In here is our collection of journals on Byzantine studies, late antiquity and Christian archaeology.
The catalogue. The catalogue of the entire holdings of the library is available online. Because of COVID risks, we recommend that you consult the catalogue via your own computer or phone, although there are 2 catalogue terminals in the library. We share the catalogue with the other School of Advanced Study libraries and the main Senate House Library. You can search the catalogue by author, title, subject or keyword, and also using any of our library class marks. The catalogue record will indicate if a book is on loan, on the new bookshelves, at the binders or in repair. If you cannot find a new book, it may still be being prepared for the shelves, so do ask us.
Thank you for following our tour of the library. We do hope you found it useful. Further information on using the library can be found on our website, or just get in touch with any questions. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, I hope that worked for everybody. One amendment to what we saw in the video is we're actually not quarantining books for 3 days anymore. So we still ask people to put them on the trolleys in the same room that you took them from, but the days are no longer labelled with the days of the week. But other than that, that is how the library works at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type our library website into the chat so that you've got that in there as well as a link. And does anyone have any questions?
Hi. Hi. So for the reserving books in the library up to 5 days, so that's, you can, come in, read the book, leave, reserve it, and come back the next day, so you can keep working. That's if you don't have membership that allows you to borrow books.
Absolutely, yes. So the reservation shelves are just a place that you can put books that you want to come back and use again the next day, and nobody else will have moved them or taken them away. And I'm also sending our general email address as well. So that's the main one to use. If you've got any questions about accessing any of our resources at all, just drop us a line. We'll do whatever we can to help. And yes, that's the booking link. Thank you. Yes, as I said earlier, we've currently got separate booking slots. So we're open from 9:30 to 6 on Mondays and Fridays, 9:30 to 8 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and 10 to 4:30 on Saturdays. And that's divided into morning, afternoon, and evening slots on weekdays and a full day slot on Saturday.
Maybe we can add something about the, it's on the 3rd floor. So on the 2nd floor, usually there are sofas and people sitting and having lunch together. People, I mean, students, and sometimes I go there too. That's how I know that the others are there. On the 3rd floor, there's also a few chairs outside the library where one can sit and chat. It is really a space where not just books, but ideas are exchanged, and an exchange that goes from the book or the journal to the person and also between persons. So, you pass by Senate House, you could drop by. If you don't have the booking, then you'll have to sit outside on the sofas and you won't be able to go in. But lately, I've always been able to book one day for the next. That is, sometimes it's difficult to know what you're going to do in 5 days, but one day to the next, hey, this is as far as one can think. I mean, anyway, you probably can't the morning for the evening, as far as I remember.
You can, yes. So our booking system, you can book up to 2 weeks in advance, and the booking closes an hour before each session starts. So the afternoon session starts at 2, so you can book up until 1 o'clock that day, provided there are still spaces left, of course. And if you've missed the start of the booking cutoff, then the simplest thing to do is just drop us an email or call us quickly and ask if there are any spaces, and we can always manually add you to the list as well if you want to make a last-minute visit.
So, questions? No. Okay. You'll do the card there right away, the free card, of course, and then the societies. You have the forms, don't you? I think they are there.
The forms are on our website, so the website link is there. If you go to the admission and membership page on the website, I can put that direct link in as well. Then that has a form to fill in for Institute membership, the reference-only membership, and also links to join either of the 2 societies if you want borrowing membership. And you can always, probably the simplest thing to do at the moment, you can just turn up with a form and give it to us. But if you email a form through to us in advance, then we'll have your card ready and waiting for you when you turn up to speed things up.
Okay, well, if there aren't questions, we might move to the final part of our program, the breakout groups. If you think of questions during the breakout groups, possibly your tutors are in a position to answer them. And anyway, we have the emails to find Joanna. So thank you very much for this beautiful video introduction and for managing what is a lifeline for all of us. It is one of the best libraries in the country. I mean, and I'm not joking, on a par, and they have things that Cambridge doesn't have, actually. So it is really a superb place to work. Okay, so clearly it must have been a good experience, I would hope. But voila, now we'll have, I think everyone is back in the main rooms, yes? So, main room. So Becky Daly, who is now doing a PhD in her 2nd year of a PhD at UCL, but who took an MA 2 years ago when it was still face-to-face, but then this year it's going to be mostly face-to-face. So it's a comparable experience, I would say. Becky?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, as Paula said, I'm Becky Daly. I'm currently a PhD student at UCL in the history department, coming into my 3rd year now, actually. So yeah, I study ancient Greece, and in particular, female participation in the religious world on the island of Kos. And like yourselves, I was doing the ancient history MA in 2017, I think it was. And I'm just here to talk about my experience very briefly. As Paula implied, I found it very rewarding and very enjoyable as I came back for more. I'm sure some of you are also considering doing a PhD. For me, the MA was sort of like testing the waters to see whether I liked research, whether I could do research. And actually, it was because of the feedback of my master's dissertation that I decided to go forward with the PhD. So it can be like a really make or break time for you guys if you want to go further. Likewise, if you just want to get the master's degree and move on, that's perfectly valid. Knowledge for the sake of knowledge's sake, I think, is equally great. Yeah, I mean, what's really brilliant about the MA is that you get to do research properly, especially with your final project. You get to choose the topic in question, which is something that you're really passionate about in your area of expertise. And it's, you know, you really get to experience independent life as an academic. And that's like one of the best thing about this intercollegiate degree is that you get so many various areas of input with so many impressive professors who could be your supervisors, which is just, you know, such an incredible opportunity for you guys. For me, as an undergrad, I was just a regular historian. So I ended up taking ancient history modules kind of by chance because that's what I got allotted. And then I took them on purpose because I liked it so much. But as a result, I didn't have any kind of ancient language besides, I think, 1 year of Latin in year 9, which was no use to me because I wanted to do ancient Greek. So I actually took Fiona Hara's Beginner's Ancient Greek for Research, which I think she's also running this year. And I was very nervous because I'm not a very linguistically minded individual. But you know what? It actually went beautifully and I really loved it. It was so nice having a class that wasn't kind of essay based. I had like regular homework that I could see myself making progress with. So if you're nervous about doing a language, don't be, because if I can do it, you definitely can, trust me. And it'll be one of those things that's really useful going forward if you want to do further research, because at the moment I translate inscriptions regularly because I'm an epigraphist. And it's kind of very necessary for my research. So it's worth keeping in mind going forward. As I was saying, RE modules, if you didn't get your first picks, I wouldn't worry. Sometimes it's really nice to be pushed outside your comfort zone. So I ended up taking a module on the history of Chinese medicine when I was doing the MA, and another one on Hellenistic encounters in Egypt, which I think they're running again. And neither of them were things that I was very well versed on, especially the Chinese history. But again, it was so nice having something really different to look forward to. And, you know, it's always good to broaden your knowledge base. And you learn different methodologies as well, which is perfect. And as Yama said earlier, you get to, you know, experience kind of range of communities and clubs, which is socially great as much as academically. Even your compulsory modules be really useful to you. The ancient history one is sources and methods in ancient history. I think it's still the same as when I took the MA. And not all the topics week to week will, of course, be interesting to you or, you know, catered towards your interest. But again, really useful to broaden your knowledge. And, you know, again, like I said, I'm an epigraphist, but I learned about papyrology, the history of food, archaeology, and numismatics, all of which have kind of fed into my research now that I've got experience with them. And of course, being in London, you've got so many great resources, the ICS, which you've been talked to in depth, which is brilliant in terms of books. I've never not been able to get a book that I needed. And the study space is brilliant too. So unlike the university library, I've always been able to get a space at the ICS. And I've probably jinxed that now with the new term starting. But the bookable study space makes it really easy. Just do it the night before, and pretty much always I've been able to get a seat. And I would definitely recommend signing up to either of the Hellenic and Roman societies, because honestly, you want borrowing rights. I mean, you know, it's 25 quid and I was living out of the ICS during my MA. So it's really nice to be able to take books home with you, especially when you're writing your MA dissertation. If you don't live in London, for example, which I don't, it was a godsend to be able to take the books home with me rather than to have to keep going up into London or to rely on photocopying services. And kind of on that same vein, definitely keep an eye out on the events that they're running. The seminar and lecture series are really good. I went to a lot when I was a MA student just because I was in London anyway. And the postgrad work in progress seminars, I would really, really recommend you attend. Even if you don't present, it's really important to kind of have an idea of what your fellow students are doing, and you get a really relaxed environment to try, presenting in, which can be really scary if you want to go into further research. There's a similar one called the AMPA. I don't know if it's been talked about yet, but it stands for the Annual Meeting of Postgrads in Ancient History. So this is a bit more kind of international, if you like. You'll get to meet lots of different students from different universities. And, again, to present in a kind of informal way, but get a lot of feedback from your fellow postgrad historians. So that will be master's students as well as PhDs, which I think can be even better because you do get challenged a bit more. In fact, I think I've got a link to their Facebook page, which I'll post in the chat. Hold on. I think this year the AMPA is happening at the University of Barcelona. So it's a good reason to go to Barcelona, I suppose, if you can swing that somehow. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was that aspect that made the MA really worthwhile, was meeting my fellow MA students and getting a feel of what researching would be like, the academic environment. And, UCL for me, because that's where I took most of my modules, was incredibly welcoming. And all of the professors will be, delighted to help you out no matter what happens. And by the fact that you've already been accepted onto this course is kind of a sign that you're more than capable of handling it. So I just have to wish you the best of luck and have a good one.
Well, thank you so much, Becky. Maybe you have a question you want to address to her about how easy it was to get the cards or whatever, or any worries or she's closer to your experience than we can be. So please, we still have a bit of time before the thing shuts down on us. Actually, it should have, but it doesn't, so that's good. So if you have questions, either in the chat or just unmute yourselves.
At what point, while studying your MA, did you start sort of looking and applying for PhD programs?
To be honest, it was towards the end, because at first I just took it because it seemed like a natural extension of my undergrad, because I went straight from my undergrad into the MA. And I was very much uncertain about whether a PhD was for me because it was such a long-term commitment. But it was through completing my MA dissertation and talking with my supervisor at the time, who's my supervisor now. She said that there was scope for kind of expansion or to take a different angle on what I was studying. So it was only like in the following year that I started actually looking into kind of funding applications and applying to UCL. So I took a slower angle, should I say, because I know some people go directly and apply during their masters, but I wasn't quite that prepared, shall we say. I wasn't ready to make that decision at that stage. So in the end, it has to be up to you what you feel ready to do.
Thank you.
There is actually a question in the chat asking whether your MA dissertation was linked to the research for the PhD, and if you think that it is a way to start preparing for a PhD topic-wise. I let Becky answer on this, but we will also have a forum at the Classics and Ancient History and so on and so forth, not work day, but at the end of the first term, there will be a day where you talk about careers, voila, and opportunities. But Becky, I don't know, was it connected?
It was kind of, because I was dealing with a big database of inscriptions and how kind of women were mainly involved in these kind of purity regulations in the Greek religious world. And now I'm focusing on female participation in religion, but in a very specific geographic area. So it gave me like a really solid knowledge base in dealing with inscriptions, which was really important to my research now, and talking about kind of women in society in the ancient world. So it did follow. It was like one of the things that I noticed were that there were a lot of inscriptions from this specific place, from the island of Kos. And, me and my supervisor were talking about it more and more, and it just seemed like a natural thing to go into. So for me, it was a a perfect kind of dovetailing, shall we say, from the MA into the PhD. And I mean, I would suggest it because it worked so well for me. And because I already had quite a good grasp of what I was talking about. I know quite a few people who go in fairly blind into their PhD topics, and that can be really scary for the first 6 months because you're still groping around for a question. But mine was kind of already ready when I started. So yeah, I would recommend.
Now, of course, you will realize that it was easier for us to find a PhD student who could talk, because the others, they go out, those who don't continue, and we don't find them. I would have liked, nonetheless, to find someone who could have talked of why it was useful, or maybe why it wasn't useful, but I mean, I hope that they wouldn't say this, to do it for just 1 year. I can just speak from my memories and my conversation. I know that one of them now does a PG cert and wants to teach, and thought that, you know, it would increase his credentials for the teaching, and he enjoyed it. And others, indeed, as Becky said, saw it as a, you know, way of expanding and testing the water, think about, and then some decided, oh, actually, I like this. And others thought, it's been interesting, but, you know, there are other things that I'm also interested in. And that's totally okay. It's one of the natural outcomes of this. Or another person thought, I like this very much, but I want to do it from the publishing angle. And so they went into publishing. So it's a time for experimentation, if you want. Yeah, questions again on this or on I wonder. We've been together for very enjoyable 2 hours and a half, and I wouldn't have thought, because these screens, you know, they can be heavy. Okay, then maybe we can thank again Becky for this sketch of life as an MA student. I'm sure that I'll see you all. We thank our colleagues and Valerie for the beautiful management of the entire meeting. And if you have any further questions, so your first port of call is your tutor in your own institution, your module teacher, if it concerns the modules, and the administrators for the technical things. Any one of the, I mean, there were quite a few emails down in the chat. You can email me. I'm always glad to hear from you. If I don't know the answer, I'll say I don't know. It's not a problem, but okay. I hope that you'll find this a good year, an exciting year. It can be absolutely fabulous. So thank you for coming, and have a nice evening.